Republican State Representative Wes Virdell of Brady, thank you so much, and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Hey, Jack, thanks for having me on.
You bet. So, first of all, it's hard to believe that here we are 1 year after the tragic, deadly floods in central Texas, that area, your district, is experiencing these awful heavy rains yet again and flash flooding. And we know that Governor Abbott announced that one person has died. Did you get any details of this person's death?
No, I was at the EOC. We were talking about that. We actually had suspected that there might have been two. Turned out there was only one. So, I mean, it could be worse, but we're not sure yet. They have yet to be identified.
And was this person in the process of being rescued, do you know, or was their body found? What
And
what
unfortunately, I don't think they were being rescued at that time. I think it was a body located.
and again, no particulars on the identity, or did it appear that that person may have been swept away from the floods?
I'm not sure to be honest with you, but it's likely one of the problems we have right now, which is most of our vegetation got swept away last year, and the water is flowing a lot faster than it did last year. And in the more downstream areas like Kerrville and Ingram and Center Point, those took a heavy toll. The water is as high potentially or even higher than it was last year right now.
Wow, and how surprising has that been for the officials there? You're standing outside the Emergency Operations Center in Kerrville. That's the Guadalupe River that we are seeing behind you. And did this take them by surprise?
No, so one of the things that's different this year than it was from last year is last year everybody went to sleep with the weather looked pretty decent for the most part, no rain, and they woke up to a wall of water coming through. In this situation, you had about 2 days of flooding that had happened around in other counties, and so people were very much aware that the ground saturated and we're facing the potential of this flooding. And I was talking to the soon-to-be county judge last night, and he was telling me they're expecting more rain, and sure enough, that's what we ended up having today.
And how many rescues? We heard Governor Abbott say earlier that there were 70 people who had been rescued. What are you seeing on the ground there?
Yeah, so that's probably correct. I haven't heard that number yet, but I know that we have Texas Parks and Wildlife, so the game wardens and BPS, they've all brought boats in. Tatum is here with their swiftwater rescue, and so we definitely have had people that were staged already, ready to do that. And we've been hearing reports here and there of people being on their roofs or stuck in their attics, and my understanding is all those people have been rescued so far.
And have people heeded the warnings? It seems like they are, right?
I think so. Something that happened earlier. We were trying to figure out how to get to Center Point earlier today, which is took a lot of rain, and we were trying to figure out how to get there. The main road was closed, so I tried to take a little single lane road, and I was going through there and popped over this hill, and it just kind of a blind spot, and I had to slam my brakes on, so I didn't go into a low water crossing. Like I would have never guessed water was flowing through that area, and thankfully we stopped in time. So that's where you got to be really careful is watching for those low water crossings right now.
And the fact that you said before that the water is even higher than it was last year because there's no vegetation because of what happened last year, how has that changed for, what impact has that had on the emergency operations crews there and residents?
Yeah, so I don't think that there's much change as far as how they're doing anything. I think it's all the same there. It's just there is stuff moving really fast. So there was a barge that was used to find over. Uh, we had two barges out upstream that were used to located debris, basically that could be dangerous to people swimming in like Ingram Lake and those areas. One of those barges ended up breaking loose and making it all the way down into what would be downtown Kerrville area. Sydney Baker is what we call it, Sydney Baker Bridge, and that barge is stuck currently on that bridge against the pillars right now. And so there is the concern of, will that bridge hold up, which I think it's going to be okay, but then how do you get that barge away from there afterwards? So we're not talking about something small, we're talking about something very large.
And what, I mean, and how serious is that?
At the moment, I don't think they're super critically concerned about it, but they are definitely worried. We were looking at pictures of it a while ago, and there's definitely some damage to the bridge on the concrete area. But as far as structural, they're waiting on TxDOT to figure out that case.
And how are you trying to help today down there at the Emergency Operations Center?
Yeah, so as a state rep, there's I'm not considered a first responder or anything like that, but we're basically there to figure out is there anything that an agency would need or any coordination between either the legislature, which is unlikely, or even the governor's team. And so we're really just kind of driving around, talking to a lot of the first responders, seeing if they need anything. And that seems to be a good spot for what I'm doing right now.
And what have you heard? What are the critical needs there?
Surprisingly, before in last year, the critical need was radio communication. There was a real struggle for people to all be on the same page. And I think because this has kind of been expected for about 2 days or so, I would say that everything's going a lot smoother and not a whole lot of needs. It's just a matter of getting used what we already have.
And people have been able to communicate with one another?
Yeah, my understanding is that's the case. I haven't heard any complaints to the other.
We've seen reports that the flood sirens that were put in place did work, both those put in privately and those put in by the state. Talk to me a little bit about that and the difference that it made.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the difference that it made. I know I just received a video shortly, maybe probably about 30 minutes ago, from somebody who had put in the private warning systems, and they seem to be working fine. The sirens work. There's three of them. They all three went off, and I'm still hesitant about the effectiveness of a siren, especially if it's middle of the night and pouring down rain. But at the same time, it's really kind of what the state wanted, and so they're working on getting more put in. But I would say that they turned on and they worked. I just haven't heard anybody from locally saying whether they heard them or not.
Now, 29 counties, I guess, they got approval, but they are still waiting. They're still in the process of getting these flood sirens. Any concerns about that in these other counties?
Yeah, I think the concern is the amount of money allotted to the sirens. And so just in Kerr County, we were talking to one of the groups that were looking at how do we get the sirens put across the county. And it was going to be around $40 million to get enough sirens based on the mandates required by the state. And the state did not fund anywhere near that amount. So I think there is a challenge on, okay, how do we put them in? How do we maintain them? And how do we afford them?
Didn't the state put in like 50 million for these?
Well, if you think about it, so let's say there's 29 counties that they're supposed to put them in, and just in Kerr County, they're estimating a cost of about 40 million. And
Mhm.
so there's really not enough money when you spread it across all those counties.
And our lawmakers, I know you are, but our other lawmakers are aware that they're going to have to put more money into this in the
I
next
think so.
session?
I do think so. We're going to have to go back to the legislature and look at some things that were done, especially the camp safety bill, and fix definitely some overreactions to what happened, and make sure that we have proper funding in those counties for the mandates that are placed on them.
The state also expanded its use of the network of sensors and gauges in the Guadalupe River. And how crucial was that?
Yeah, it's a great question that I don't have an answer for. I've talked to Upper Guadalupe River Authority in the past. I'm just not sure if those sensors have been put in, but I do know that there is a lot of talk right now about monitoring everything. And so even at the EOC, they're monitoring a lot of different data points.
And what about the summer camps that are along the Guadalupe River? Were they all evacuated? And have there been any communications problems between the camps and first responders?
So everything I've heard so far is that the camps have been easy to get a hold of. I actually called one of the camps right about sunrise and asked them how it was going. And up in the Hunt area, they did not get hit badly like Kerrville and further downstream did. And so in the Hunt area, they said, hey, the water barely came out of the banks, and that was around sunrise. I haven't talked to them since, but the county commissioners, they said that they've been in contact with all the camps and that everything seems to be okay.
Now, I know that the state lifted the requirement that there were going to have to be fiber optic facilities within these camps to make sure that there was good communication. And instead, they did allow redundant broadband. And you're saying so far, so good, right?
Yeah, so far so good. That fiber optic requirement is something I fought against on the bill, and I even tried to file an amendment to fix that bill. It didn't pass, but thankfully there were some camps that sued the state over that requirement, and there was an injunction granted, so they didn't have to have that. The good news is we've still been in contact with all those camps, which proves that we didn't need the fiber optic to begin with. It was going to cost camps millions of dollars each to get that mandate put in.
And my last question to you is, what else do you see the legislature having to do next session?
Yeah, one is looking at, of how they're going to fund the sirens if they want that many sirens placed. And two is that we're going to have to fix the camp safety bill. There are camps now having to pay up to $20,000 a year for a camp licensing fee because of that bill. And then we've actually got to go in and actually remove the fiber optic requirement. There was another issue too related to the elevation of cabins away from the floodway. They didn't take that into consideration at all. So some of these camps are only running at half capacity because of that rule.
And given what you've seen and experienced this time around, do you think that the legislature needs to do anything additional?
No, I don't think there's anything additional. Just to fix the stuff that's been done in the past and make sure it actually is needed and necessary.
And you and your family have been safe throughout this whole process?
Yeah, I actually live about 100 miles north of here. We drove down here this morning as soon as we got the notification of what was going on, and everybody's good so far. And as far as we can tell, driving around talking to people, it seems for the most part that everybody is pretty good.
All right, we will leave it there. Republican State Representative Wes Virdell of Brady, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Chet.